Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world and whatever time it is for you, whether you're going to jump in here with me live or whether you're hashtag replay, watching the recording. Welcome to day 3 of the Become Extraordinary Masterclass. I'm having so much fun with you this week, and I truly hope that you're finding the information not just of value, but a little bit fun too. What have we done so far? We have clarified our vision in one or more areas of your life, and hopefully you have Hi Lisa, good morning. Nice to see you. Didn't expect that. That was unexpected. I need to put my glasses on now so I can read comments. And hopefully that vision has color, it has flavor. You can see it, hear it, feel it, taste it. The most important part here is that you can feel it, that it creates energy and vibration and excitement and passion within you. I'm so happy, Lisa, this is in between meetings for you. Then the next part, or day 2, we created some space. Because you've got busy lives, dynamic lives. We don't just want to pile more things on your to-do list. We want to create some space for this vision to appear, to come to life. And I encourage you to zoom out just for a little while and have a look at your life and have a look at where your focus was. We also talked about the importance of focus. Where is your energy flowing? Where focus goes, energy flows. So thinking about how you're spending your time, because it's at your only limited resource. It's limited for all of us. How are you spending your time, thus your energy? And we all have a limited amount of physical energy, because when we do too much, we feel tired, we may get ill, some people fall into burnout. So we know we have limited amount of time, limited amount of physical energy. And I asked you to really zoom out and have a good look at where your energy, your focus, your attention, your time, what you're spending your time on in your life at the moment. And if that was aligned with the vision. Now today we're going to move into your resources. Today we're going to talk about skills, strengths, gifts, and resources. You were born, a whole lot of things, a whole lot of magic had to happen for you to end up here on earth. For you to be born into this physical realm, this physical plane. So if you think about your parents meeting, their parents meeting, their parents meeting, their parents meeting, their parents meeting, and back and back and back and back we go. Just even think about that for a second. A million different moments had to unfold for you to be born into the world. You're not here by accident. You're not here by accident. You're part of the tapestry. You're part of the greater plan of the universe. And when you arrived here, you arrived with a beautiful suitcase filled with gifts and strengths. Some of them even unique to you. No one else on the planet has them. They're yours and nobody else's. Then as you've moved through life, you've gained skills. You've learned skills. Some of those you have mastered. Some, maybe not. Maybe you didn't need to. That was a skill that was required for a certain amount of time in your life or a certain period of your life. Don't really need it now. You're very happy for that to it'll always sit in your subconscious mind. You'll always know how to do it. It might be in a filing cabinet somewhere, right at the back. You know, that part of the filing cabinet, no one really knows what's in there. It just seems to be random documents. So it might be sitting in there. Or you may have acquired a skill that you're still using today and now you've mastered it. It might even be your craft. So I'm going to tell you a couple of stories, give you a couple of examples, and then we'll go into the home play for today. In the mid-90s, I was so fortunate to find myself in a training program in Europe, traveling all around Europe on a bus, in a training program that went for a month, learning how to be an on-road cook for a camping travel company. And if you follow me on my personal Facebook account, I saw they're 50 years old next year, and they were showing some old advertising from the mid-90s, and I posted it in there because it was fun for me to remember. And I want to be able to remember it again. It's something I love about Facebook. It brings up the memories for us periodically. So here's the thing. So I'll wind back a little. I went to Europe on a holiday. I holidayed with this company, and there's reasons why I don't have time for it today, but I became quite good friends with the crew. And there's a mix up with my visa and they had to sort it out for me. But anyway, and at the end of our tour, we got my visa sorted out for Russia. And at the end of the tour, one of them or two of them said to me, "We think you'd be really good at this job and you should apply to join us next year." Now, I couldn't be a driver of the coach because I didn't have a bus license. And I couldn't be a tour leader. There was 3 on the crew. I couldn't be a tour leader because the tour leaders were required to have a British passport or a long-term visa, some kind of patriality. And I didn't have that. I just had the 2-year working visa. So my only option, well, I could have gone and got my bus license, but my option in that moment, or the option I chose, was to become a cook. And I was holidaying in Greece, on an island in Greece, tiny little island, and not one of the big ones we've all heard of, tiny little one. And I called my best friend back here in Australia. And I was so excited. And this phone box, because I had to go to a phone box, I didn't have a mobile phone. This phone box was just eating my money like you wouldn't believe. This call from this tiny island in Greece all the way to Australia. And I'm saying to her, and I used to live with this friend. I lived with her for many years. We flat shared. We shared a house together. And I'm saying to her, you'll never guess what? I've been accepted to become a cook for this company called Top Deck. To go on the training trip, I should say, I'd been accepted for the training program, not given a job. And she laughed, and she laughed, and she laughed, and she laughed. It was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. In fact, I'm pretty sure there was some sniffles as she teared up. And I ended up saying to her, can you stop laughing? This is costing me a fortune. I'm just pumping more money in to this phone box. And she pulled herself together, and I never forget it. She said, I'm so sorry. That is so funny to me that you've applied and been accepted to go into a training program as a cook, because I'm so sorry, but you can't. And when I tell people this story, I receive different reactions, and some of them sort of recoil almost in horror and say, oh my gosh, what a terrible thing to say. I can't believe she said that to you. And I have to reply, no, but it was true. I couldn't. And I distinctly remember my reply, which was, I'll learn. And then we said our goodbyes, ended the phone call, had our little chit chat, whatever it was. And we hung up. And I went into this training program, and she was completely right. When we would have people over for dinner when we lived together, this is not even a joke, I'm serious. All I was allowed to do was make the salad. That's all I was allowed to do. I wasn't allowed to cook anything or heat anything up. I was allowed to make, and even one day I messed that up because I put the dressing on, at 9 a.m. And by the time everyone came over at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m., it was all wilted and wet and quite gross. So she was right. I couldn't, my repertoire was things on toast. Baked beans on toast, eggs on toast, peanut butter on toast, jam on toast, right? Vegemite on toast. So it was hilarious. So I go into this training tour, month long, and it was cutthroat and harsh because they didn't want people just using it as let me turn my fan on, getting a bit warm. They didn't want people just using it as a fun trip around Europe. There was nothing fun about it. For a start, it wasn't even warm. It's cold. I think it snowed we were in our tents in Munich and it snowed. That's how cold it was. So you would be asked to leave. They would kick you off in the middle of Europe somewhere if they felt you weren't up to scratch or you weren't there for the right reasons. So I had to really think about what's the word I'm looking for? It's not theory. How I was going to, my intention, that's not the word either, it'll drop in a minute. How I was going to show up, what my strategy was going to be. So I thought about what are my skills and my strengths and my gifts. I was working in an office in finance in Australia. Quite different to traveling around on a bus cooking in Europe. And I thought, okay, so what can I use? What do I have already? I don't have the cooking. I don't really have, I used to camp as a child, so the camping part was fine. Definitely can't cook and definitely can't cook for big groups of up to 40 people. So what have I got? I can connect with people. I love people. I can communicate. I love listening to people. I love talking. I make friends rather easily because I find people so interesting. And the key, there was two, I guess, key ones. I really wanted it. Vision pulls, which we talked about. Vision pulls. I wanted this job. The vision, I wanted to spend a year or two, which ended up being 5. I wanted to spend a year or two traveling around the Northern Hemisphere, meeting people, doing this amazing work, feeling freedom, feeling joyful, learning about cultures, learning about people, learning about history, learning about religion, learning about, I was really into religion, a bit obsessed with religions back then, which has led me here, all makes sense now, right? And so the vision was pulling. I'll do anything. So what do I have? An ability to connect, an ability to communicate, an ability to listen. So I also have a very strong desire to learn, which I still hold to this day. I'm a lifelong learner. And I can learn, and I can learn fast because I can focus. I can focus on what someone's saying to me. I can focus on what I'm saying. I can filter out noise and focus. So that was my strategy. So I paid a lot of attention when our trainer was speaking. I took a whole lot of notes, but here's the other thing. I think in Survivor, if you watch Survivor now, they'd call it a social game. I played a social game. So I really connected with, because there were chefs and cooks in my training group. People who were trained in this, people who had the gift, came naturally to them, and also had the skills because they were trained. They'd been through apprenticeships or they'd been to cooking school. So I aligned myself with them, not in an icky to get something way, in an authentic, learned about them, liked them, they're still friends, I'm still friends with them, some of them today. Really got to know them, really got to enjoy them as a person, laughing, having fun. They helped me. We were in a supermarket in Prague. Nothing's written in English. Nothing's even, their alphabet looks different. Their language looks different. Because when I was doing this, not a lot of things were in English in many countries. And I remember standing at the checkout and our trainer Margot, her name was and probably still is, turns around and says to me, "Oh, we've forgot the coriander. Janelle, can you run and get the coriander?" I didn't know what coriander looked like. I had no idea. And I remember grabbing my mate Trev and saying, "Come and show me what coriander is." So he did. He came with me and he showed me what it looked like and we smelt it. This is coriander, right? Okay, this is coriander. And then we ran back and we presented it. She knew. She was no dummy. She knew these people were helping me. She didn't care. Because by now I'd connected with her and she wanted me to get through. She would then give me little challenges. We'd be at the campsite, sitting around the cook tent because we cooked in a tent, and she'd say, "Janelle, make a roux. Janelle, you're going to make the roux, such and such, you're going to do this, such and such." And then she'd turn her back on me and walk away. So I couldn't ask her how to do it. I didn't know how to make a roux. I didn't know what one was. So one of my friends would come and help me. And here's the thing, this is how we worked so well together. They wouldn't do it. They'd talk me through it. Get this, now pick this up, pour it into there, now do this, now pour that in, now whisk it, now see how it's doing this, da 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 da. And I think our trainer loved it too because we worked as a team. And if there's this, and this has just dropped in for me now, if there's something I'm good at, it's team. I'm also good. I love team. I grew up in team sports, playing team sports. I love team. And every time I tried an individual sport, I'd be like, "Oh no, kind of like being part of a team." So I'd go back to my team sports. That was my love, being around other people. So the camaraderie, right? So they're my resource, the resources I already had. But my gap, then there was the gap. The gap was, I didn't know how to cook. Kind of big one. When that's going to be your whole job. I also had to connect with people, communicate with people. Of course, that was part of my job. But if I couldn't cook, what was the point of me being there? So that was my strategy. That's how and then I ended up, the funniest thing of this story is before I left, I became the trainer. I was the trainer. I went on the road and trained other cooks. Hilarious. How funny is that? From the woman whose repertoire was things on toast. So this is what I'm talking about. What have you got already to step into this vision, to create this vision, to bring this vision to life? That's your dream, your desire. But also, where are the gaps and how are you going to fill that gap? So I filled the gap by listening to my trainer, by writing everything down. I wrote everything down. Even when others were kicking back on their camp chairs, the cooks, the chefs, they were just kicking back in their camp chairs. They just needed to learn sort of the camping part, because there was a lot of things we had to learn around, right, as soon as we get into camp, if it's late, you've got to start cooking straight away. This is how it works. This is how it'll happen. This is how camp's set up. This is your part in it. This is how we pack up in the morning. We got to get back on the coach fast. We've got to get moving in the mornings. This is your role. This is how you help the tool leader. This is your role with the driver. This is how you shop. These are the supermarkets you go to, because we're shopping with 5, 6, 7, 8 trolleys to feed 40 people. This is how it works. You'll need the driver to help you. Sometimes the tool leader won't be there. The driver always will be, because they've got to drive you there. So there was a lot of connection, camaraderie, teamwork, planning. I can plan, and I'm naturally organized. So some of the chefs were having to learn that side, whereas I've got all that naturally, or some of them were skills that I'd learned through my life and my role at school and in my jobs, my education. So the cooking was the part I focused on. They focused on the other parts. So they had gaps, I had gaps, they were different, and we all made it through and had the best time. So I can give you another example that may be a little more relatable, because not many people go and work on a coach in Europe, right? My first leadership role, my very, very, very first leadership role that I went into. And if you're in leadership right now, you may remember your first leadership role. You may be a new leader, you may be an emerging leader, that may be your next step, right? Maybe you lead people now. It can be a little frightening. It's a responsibility. And this is when I do a lot of work with people on imposter syndrome and fraud complex. Should I really be here? Am I really good enough? Am I qualified enough? Am I experienced enough? People are looking, leaders go first. Am I courageous enough? People are looking for you to go first. And they're also looking for you to coach and develop them, right? Without micromanaging them. So it's complex. And I remember going into my first leadership role and thinking, I had imposter syndrome very deeply, and I talk about that in another program, how I overcame that. But for our purposes today, I looked at my resources. Okay, what are my skills? What are my strengths? What are my gifts? And how can I use them? And where are my gaps? Now, when I decided how to feel, and I've just talked about some of them, so I'm not going to go through them again. You're smart enough to transfer those over. When I looked at the gaps, there were some gaps I wanted to fill, and I did that by finding a coach. In fact, I found 2 people. I found a coach to help me with my courage, to help me with my confidence, to help me with the fraud complex, the imposter syndrome, to help me. And the coach I chose had been in leadership roles, so she could help me with a lot, she'd been there, the management style. And I found a mentor. So I found someone in my industry who was a couple of rungs higher than me on the ladder, so to speak. And she helped me. So I had someone working on my mindset, and then I had someone helping me navigate the industry and navigate the pathway to my next leadership role, then my next leadership role. So that's how I filled the gap. Now, if I can give you an example, looking at time, yep, we're good. If I can give you an example around personal life, my gosh, we've already talked a little bit about, how I had to move from I only knew unhealthy relationships in a romantic sense and intimate relationships. That's all I knew, relationships that didn't work out. So when I moved into one that I wanted to work out, I had to do the same thing. What do I have? What are my skills? What are my gifts? What are my strengths? And where are the gaps? And how am I going to fill the gaps? What's the resource? Is it a book? Is it a course? Is it a program? Is it someone I know who's already done this? Is it a professional? Now, I want to go a step further, because I've already talked a little bit about that in this masterclass, into probably what was more terrifying, which was stepping into instant parenthood. right? Because I was single, I lived alone. I'd lived alone for a long time. We've talked about when I wasn't living alone periodically, or for that snapshot of time. But I'd gotten very used to being back in my own space, back into my own place. I'd found myself again. We've already talked about that. I was healed. We've already talked about that. So now I've met this man, and he's fantastic and he's wonderful, and we're connecting, and there's synergies, and we like each other, and things are going well, and then we fell in love, and this beautiful relationship. And then it was okay. So to take this further, that will mean cohabiting, I think it is. And then these two little children in primary school stay with us 50% of the time. Okay. This was one of my scariest challenges in my life because I took it really seriously. And I really need to acknowledge their mother, who was very welcoming. So that made it easier because she was always very kind to me and very supportive to me and for me. So, and my husband, of course, was amazing through this transition period, because we've all got to go through a transition period. But again, I did the same thing. What are my skills? What are my strengths? What are my gifts? What can I bring here? And I think the intention, so we're going to talk, we've touched a little bit on energy, but we're going to talk about that more later in the program, in this masterclass, the energy behind things, the intention behind things, how are we showing up energetically? What's the vibe coming from us? We can feel people's vibes a mile away. And we know when their intentions aren't entirely good. My intentions were good. I wanted it to work. I loved them from the moment I met them. And I knew it was a transition process. I knew patience was going to be required. I'm not saying it wasn't hard. And I'm not saying there weren't moments where I wondered, whoa, this is a lot harder than I thought. This is a lot harder than I thought. I don't know if I'm up for this. Okay, there were tough moments, but there were also moments of joy, love, laughter, happiness, connection. So I thought about what I have to bring to the table and where are my gaps. And I filled the gaps really two ways. One was I read a lot. I read a lot of step parenting books, and then I read books about having teenage children. And I was so lucky that I had friends in the same situation, but a couple of years ahead of me. They were one in Sydney, or New South Wales, country New South Wales, and one here in Melbourne. They were my lifeline. I was constantly reaching out to them. This has happened, or this is happening, or can you relate? What did you do here? What's your suggestion? And we've always got to remember that we are different people and our situations are different. And of course, there's other people involved, so they're different also. But my goodness, were they a wealth of knowledge and assistance. And also my husband's family, because then they could say to me, oh yeah, well, he's been like that since he was a baby, or she's been like that since she was a baby, right? So, because that's someone outside looking at the dynamic in, so I really drew on the people who were my resources and the books. I did go into a private Facebook group for step parenting, and it was, I'm just going to put it out, I'm just going to say it was ugly. It was ugly. I got out of there pretty quickly. The benefit though was, for me, is some people were having the most awful experiences and I was not at all. Things that I thought were tough, ooh, not so much. Not so much. But I didn't like, there was a lot of nastiness in there. And that's not for me. So I got out of there pretty quickly. But again, it's the same strategy. Sitting back, zooming out. We don't zoom out enough, right? Zooming out. What are my skills? What have I learned over the years? What have I mastered over the years? Or what are my secondary skills? What are the skills that, hey, I've done that before and I've done this before and I could probably use it here, but I'd never mastered it. Okay, all right, how will I master it? Because it's going to be required here. Haven't needed it more than I've needed it now. What are the gifts that I was born with? And here's the thing about gifts. I can tell you right now, guaranteed, you have gifts inside you that you have not yet unwrapped. So do I. We have gifts inside us that we have not yet unwrapped. And the reason for that is because we haven't had to yet. They haven't been required. So if you think about your life, and that's going to be the homework, home play. I'm in my own I'm a student in a program at the moment and she keeps calling it homework. So it's kind of, I call it home play. And I was watching her this morning. So that's in my head. Sorry about that. Present Janelle. This is going to be our home play. When you look over your life, you will be able to see when gifts have emerged that you didn't know you had. And they emerge when we step into something bigger, brighter, or bolder than ever before, something that takes some courage, or when life's pulled the rug out from under us, the challenging times, the times of hardship, the times of struggle, the times of suffering. They also emerge then. So you still have, I don't care if you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, you still have gifts inside you that want to emerge. In fact, sometimes they're even knocking, aren't they? Let me out of the suitcase, someone out of the suitcase. I didn't come into the world with you to be in this dark suitcase. I want to be used. I want to be free. I want to explore. I want to come to life. I want to be utilized. Lisa says, my gifts helped me see I could be using these skills to earn the money and not my bosses. I could be using maybe me. Oh, that's me. I misread. My gifts helped me see I could be using, I'm so sorry, Lisa. I could be using these skills to earn the money and not my bosses. I know Lisa. I've worked with Lisa. She has built an extraordinary business from, in fact, she's a case study. She has built the most extraordinary business from the ground up. From a challenging time too. Not a, hey, I've got everything at my disposal here. Hey, I've got all this money. Hey, I've got someone investing in my business. Hey, my world is just so rosy right now. From guts and courage and belief, self-belief. Oh, thank you. She says, I would never have been so brave if I hadn't worked with you. Mwah. It's a team. We're a good team. So here is your home play. If you have the book, it's page 29 in the book. Here is your home play. I encourage you, if you've done this before, do it again. If you've done this before and you've created, because remember I talked on the very first day of this masterclass, these tools and techniques can be used over and over and over, repeated as we up level. We don't have to go and find new tools as we up level. We can use the same ones. We can go and find new tools, and I love finding new tools because it's fun for me, right? And I get to share them with you. So it's loads of fun to me to learn new tools. But you don't have to. Okay. Do a timeline. Get a huge piece of paper or not. It's up to you. However you want to do it. Look back over your life, and the first thing you're going to do, I love paper and textures and color and pencils. So I love putting down huge pieces of paper for things. I do a lot of mind mapping with colored textures, and it's how I get things out of my head. And colored markers, if you're not Australian, you may not know what I mean about textures. We talk in brands, Australians, it's the thing we do. Colored markers. So I'm just going to say how I do this. So I modify it for you. Huge sheet of paper, line across the middle. This is when I was born on this end, because you will see gifts. I've had people do this activity and they've only gone as far as sort of their 20s, and then they come to their next call with me and, oh, I didn't go all the way back because I was a child. What did I know? And then we go back and they see the gifts they were born with, because they can see when they were 7 years old, they were organising the play groups, or they were the one that was ready for school first out of the family because they were so organised and had all their homework and they had all the right clothes for the day. So they were the ones that walked along in the playground and everyone followed them, like natural leader. Please go back as far as you can remember. Right back to 0. And then the main moments in your life, situations, the highlights, the big things that have happened to you will just automatically arise. So, okay, look at my childhood, look at my teens, look at my 20s, look at my 30s, ... What were the big moments in those years? I like to do I plot mine every 5 years, but up to you. What happened during that time? What were the highlights? So first we do the successes. What were the highlights? What did I achieve during that time? Or what did I experience during that time that was just extraordinary and amazing and incredible? And I can't believe I did it. And now when I look back, I kind of don't know how I did it. And it was so amazing. So proud of myself. And then make a list when you're looking at that situation or that moment. Make a list of the skills, the strengths, and the gifts. So they maybe the skills, because skills we learn. Skills are learned. So maybe there's some skills you used for that accomplishment to lead you to that achievement, to create that success. Were there skills you used? Were there strengths you utilized? And were there gifts? Now, I just want to talk about gifts for a moment. Gifts are the things that you can do effortlessly and easily. Sometimes people get a bit jumbled or tumbled between gifts and strengths. Strengths are, this is a strength of mine. Sometimes you'll consider a skill you've mastered. You've learned a skill, you've mastered it, it's now your strength. Yeah. A gift is something that you kind of can't believe other people can't do it. It's a bit strange to you that other people can't just divide, 52 into 1024. How come everybody can't do that? It's so simple to me. Or stylists, and I'm in a business course at the moment on social media branding and colors and styles. That's not my strength or my gift. So I'm learning, I'm really in my conscious mind. I'm learning. I've got a notebook of notes. I'm watching how they do things. I'm getting a bit frustrated because I get stuck. And then there's other people in the group posting their beautiful branding that they've done on their Instagram in 10 minutes. Oh, these colors. Well, how could I? Oh my gosh, these colors look like this and this looks like this. And oh my gosh, how could I never see this before? This is so obvious. Da 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 da. And I just think, oh, that's your gift. I'm thinking at the moment about hiring a personal stylist. If you know one, let me know. If you know one in Melbourne, let me know. I would love a referral. Because it's not my thing. Whereas other people run clothing boutiques and can throw jeans and a shirt on and they look magnificent and it's effortless to them. It's a gift. They don't understand why other people can't just do this. So this is a gift. And the gift, when we don't realize we're tapping into a gift, it can bring on a little bit of fraud complex or imposter syndrome. So I'm just going to go there for one moment. When we step into something bigger, brighter, bolder than ever before, and we get there, and maybe it's been a dream for a long time, maybe it's something we've worked towards for a long time. There was a few resources we had to gather, there were some skills we had to learn, we had to master them to land where you've landed now. And you think, I thought this was going to be hard. I thought this was going to be hard. It isn't. It's effortless and easy. So I must be doing it wrong. I must be a fraud. I must be an imposter. Because I thought, as I viewed the pathway towards, the journey towards this, I viewed it as something that was going to be so challenging. And it actually isn't. Or people told you. People told you on the path, as you were journeying along the path to this place, this vision, people told you it would be hard or challenging. You received a message, you received multiple messages. And then you arrive there and it's not. That's when we can sometimes fall into fraud complex, or I must be a fraud because everyone said this would be hard and I'm not working as hard as everybody else and I'm not as stressed as everybody else. It's actually fun, easy and effortless. So maybe I'm not doing it well enough. So these are gifts. Sometimes if you've ever felt that way, or if you're feeling that way now, it may not be that you're doing something wrong or not up to requirement. It may just mean it's your gift. I ran a department in a huge organization where my peers were stressed to the max. And I was just like, come on guys, it's kind of easy, right? I guess. What's the problem? So I wasn't, and I felt like a fraud for a long time. I wasn't. I just was tapping into my gifts, my skills and my strengths and using them, not trying to make it too hard or too taxing or too big. So that's something I just want to say about gifts. So that's the first step. The second step is so now you've got a list. So list them. These are the gifts, the skills, and the strengths that emerged when I achieved all these amazing successes in my life. Then you'll look back over it again, and now you're going to plot the times it all went awry. The times that it felt like life just pulled the rug completely out from under you, which was my story at the inspiration of the book. And the times that weren't as painful as that. The times that were challenging. The times when you messed up. The times when you felt flat on your face. The times when it felt like you failed. You're going to plot those. And then, because these are often our greatest learning moments, this is really when your gifts come out and your strengths and your skills that were secondary skills become primary skills, and then they become strengths. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. So look at those moments look at them, zoom out and look at them critically. And by that I mean not falling back into the emotion, looking at it analytically, looking at it with your conscious mind. So your conscious mind is analytical, solves problems, plans for the future, can add up 2 + 2. Look at it with your conscious mind. Your subconscious mind's your emotions. So look at it with your analytical conscious mind and list out what emerged. What emerged from me that pulled me out of this? How did I lead myself out of this? What did I use? What were the resources I used? Now, they could be resources internal to you, or they could be resources external to you, which I've used. Just talked about some. So books, programs, courses, people. What did you use? Now you're going to have one very long list, okay, of skills, strengths, gifts, resources. Highlight or circle the one. This is what you have already. Maybe resources, maybe just put resources off to the side for a minute. I really want you to focus on your gifts, your skills, and your strengths. What do you have available to you right now? Circle or highlight the ones you can use on the pathway towards this vision. The vision that you want to create in your life. The vision that you've landed on for this masterclass, 5-day masterclass. Because remember, for some of you, there's multiple. If it's multiple, there's multiple. Go for it. For these activities, maybe focus on one. Then you'll get you'll get in a rhythm. You'll learn how to use the resource, the tool, if you don't know already. Some of you know already how to use these tools and techniques. Get into the rhythm of it, and then you can start bringing in other areas of your life. Up to you. Whatever feels good, whatever feels aligned, whatever you're up for. So now you've got a whole list. So highlight or circle the skills, strengths, and gifts that you can use right now. Some of them may be strengths. I'm really good at this. Primary. So they're your primary skills. Primary skills I'm really good at, to the point where it's a strength. Then there might be some secondary skills. Secondary skills are, I've done this before, or I've learned this before, or I've had experience in this before, but I'm not great at it. I could be better. And if I was better, it would really help me bring this vision to life. So then you can start to look at those. Okay, my skills, my primary skills, my strengths, my gifts, they're just going to happen naturally. I'm going to draw on those. These secondary skills that I feel if I really dived into, they would really, really help me bring this vision to life. So think about the resources you're going to go and tap into to help you expand in those skills. Then you might think, are there any gaps? So I know what I'm going to use that'll be easy and effortless for me. I've listed a couple of skills that I feel I could become stronger in, and that would assist me. But now I can see a gap. I'm going to have to I want to fill the gap. I want to fill this gap. You might even have to fill the gap to achieve the dream. So a gap could be a qualification. I couldn't come around to your house tonight and take your appendix out because I don't have a medical license. Well, I wouldn't know how anyway, but I don't have, it's probably on YouTube, but I don't have a medical license, and no one's going to give me a medical license because there's too big a gap. Don't have the qualification. So there may be a gap that now you want to fill. So that is the home play for today. Today I'm going to gift a copy of Become Extraordinary to someone who I know is watching this on YouTube and is not in this Facebook group, and that is Gilda. So Gilda, if you can send me a private message or an email with your address, I will get a signed copy of Become Extraordinary out to you pronto. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being part of the Become Extraordinary Masterclass. Thank you if you've been able to jump on live, and lots of love and gratitude as well if you're watching the replay, and I know some of you are, and also watching along on YouTube who aren't on Facebook. Enjoy your day. You're so welcome. And I will see you tomorrow. Change of time. It was 10 a.m. tomorrow Australian Eastern Standard Time. It's now 7 p.m. tomorrow evening Australian Eastern Standard Time. So you've got some extra time to do the home play today, and I'll see you then. Bye.